I had a few vegetarian friends over for dinner the other night and I wanted to make them something really hearty and robust. So I decided to make them mushroom paprikash. Usually it's a stew that's made with veal, chicken or beef, but mushrooms work really well because they're so meaty. Now, when you're looking for your mushrooms at the shop, always look for really firm, shiny mushrooms just like these. This particular variety is called a Swiss brown mushroom, and I love them because they've got a really nutty, woody, earthy flavour. They're a fantastic substitute for meat, and I'm not even going to chop them. I'm going to leave them whole because they're just so perfect. Okay, I've been preheating a sauté pan and I'll add a good glug of olive oil and in with our mushrooms. Now we want this to be quite high because we want to seal off the mushrooms as if it was a piece of meat. So high heat. I also like to add a little knob of butter because we all know mushrooms and butter are best friends. And we're just going to let that cook away for a moment. While that's cooking, we can prepare our onions. So 1 onion, and I'm just going to slice the onions. And I also like to add garlic, so 2 classics with this. Let's have a look at these mushies. Fantastic. See how they're nicely sealed? Now we can add our onions. We want to give those mushrooms a bit of a head start, and this is just going to start softening together. Okay. Toss that around. Now I haven't seasoned the mushrooms yet, so a generous pinch of salt to really bring out their flavour and some pepper. And I'll give that a really quick stir. And I'll just allow those onions to break down slightly. Now I like to add some thyme to this too. You can just add the whole lot if you like, or just to make it much easier so you don't have to take the stalks out later on, just pick the little leaves off them. So much flavour. Okay, that should do it. A big handful of the thyme. Smells so good. Now I'm just adding my garlic now because I didn't want it to burn earlier on because that pan's quite hot at the moment. And a little more butter. Now, it can't be a paprikash without paprika. So I'm using some Hungarian paprika. You could also use some sweet paprika. You don't want it to be too hot though, so stay away from the hot paprika. I mean, the world of paprika is quite wonderful. There are so many different varieties, but this is what makes it distinct. So in with a generous amount of the paprika, and we just want to toast that off. Now to make this into a thick style stew, I like to add a little bit of flour, and we want to cook that off for a moment so we don't get that raw flour taste. Turn the heat down slightly. We'll add a little tomato paste and some white wine to give it an extra savoury flavour, a hint of Worcestershire sauce, and finally a little bit of stock. Now I'm using some vegetable stock because I'm making this into a vegetarian dish. And now all we need to do is allow this to cook. Not for too long because they are mushrooms after all. They don't need long at all to cook. I'm going to give this about 10 to 15 minutes. In the meantime, I've got a pot of water. Once it's boiling, I'm going to add some fresh pappardelle to serve with it. Oh, it's smelling good. So let's have a look at these mushrooms. Oh, see how they've really held their shape nicely. And just to make it extra creamy, I'm going to add some sour cream. So a generous spoonful of that goes into the centre. It's going to give it a lovely tanginess too. And I like to use just a whisk to slowly incorporate that sour cream. I don't like any lumps in it, so if you just do it nice and slowly in the centre, you'll see it melt. And look at the sheen on that. Doesn't that look fantastic? Okay, pasta is ready. All we need to do now is drain it, and I like to serve this with some buttered pasta. So I've just got a little bit of butter in my bowl, and we'll just drain off our pasta just directly in there. It's okay if a little bit of the water goes in there. It's going to mix with that butter, giving it a lovely little sheen. Oh, I love that. And if you can get some fresh pappardelle like I've got here, it's going to taste even better because it's going to mop up all the beautiful sauce from the mushroom paprikash. I'll add a pinch of salt, another little toss, and we'll serve this on one side of our bowl. Let's make this quite generous. And for our mushrooms, a generous amount of this. I love how all of the onions are quite chunky too. Fantastic. Lots of sauce too. Even if you're not vegetarian, this is a really fantastic dish. Those mushrooms are so meaty in themselves. So a final garnish of some fresh parsley, just a few sprigs. We'll just roughly chop that. We'll sprinkle that over the top. A little bit of extra freshly cracked pepper. So there you have it, that's my version of paprikash using mushrooms. They're meaty, they're delicious. My friends loved this the other night. I think you're gonna love it too.